So there's a video going around of a Bhad Bhabie on top of, I believe, her boyfriend or ex-boyfriend's SUV. I believe his name is Levon, and she's basically screaming, crying, and I think she's even like apologizing in the video, and he tries to like gas and then brake, like get her to fly off of the hood of the car. And he's literally like trying to drive off, and she will not let go. She will like not be like, okay, let me get up, let me stop this. Now, her and this man have been on a very highly publicized breakup, on and off relationship for about 3 years, where she stated that there's been lots of lots of DV allegedly. She's reported multiple situations. We all know it takes women multiple times to leave these situations. And I do feel like she has some type of trauma bond or some type of something going on. She really needs to get into like counseling. She really needs to get in like full some type of treatment. But she's been exposed to a lot of trauma in her life. I pulled up her birth chart, and I want to see, this is all for educational purpose on studying the energy of astrology. And I don't necessarily think that her astrological placements have anything to do with what's going on with her. I just want to show you certain things in her chart that could resemble somebody who has been through a lot of trauma. So her sun sign is an Aries. She's an Aries sun, and she also has her Lilith in Aries, and she has a Capricorn moon. It is believed that her ascendant is in Leo, so she's definitely very much centered with a lot of dominant fire energy. Her sun is at 5 degrees in Aries, and her moon is at 27 degrees in Capricorn. One of the things that stands out to me when I look at her chart is that her chart is at an area where I would consider very much centered around a lot of most of dominant action in her 7th, 8th, and 9th house, which could be seen as an area of a lot of risk taking, and also a lot of area of what some would say that there was some type of trauma involved. 7th house partnerships, 8th house areas of reset, birth, and also death. And then also 9th house, the area of maybe travel, philosophy, and also expansion. She tends to yearn for communication with other people, but unfortunately it feels like that energy is also very limited, as we see that she has a Saturn in 23 degrees in Gemini. And this is in her 11th house. So I think this also has to do with areas of also like the collective and responsibilities. What's interesting about her is she is a life path of 7. 7s are known for teaching people certain situations and bringing up energies of almost like karmic situations, and having an energy that is aligned with the past and relearning certain situations, and also showing the collective how they can possibly improve from her life circumstances. Now we have to remember she was like on Dr. Phil when she was like 13 or 15, and she was like literally trying to fight her mom. And people who are like trying to fight their parent is like a whole different level. I don't care like what the trauma was or what happened, but for the most part it seems like her and her parents always had a very rough relationship, and it was always very complex. We see in the energy of the 10th house where a lot of times it's almost seen as like the masculine house and the house of legacy. We see that house is very much almost empty of planetary alignment, but she does have the energy of her midheaven in there with Taurus. And her north node is actually in Gemini, but it is still resembling the 10th house. Now, the north node in Gemini is the energy of everything that is seen as a total obstacle for this energy, for this life path, for this pathway. And we see that energy is very immature. It's at a 1. So it makes me think that there's some areas of analytics that needs to be thought out. She has a hard time really understanding certain areas of communication. What's also interesting when I look at her seventh house is we see that her Venus and also her Uranus are together. The Venus is in retrograde actually at 28 degrees in Aquarius, where the Uranus is in Pisces but still in the seventh house. I do feel like this is an indicator that she has issues with not just her relationships with her partners, but also with her family as well. As we can see that Uranus is very disruptive, and while it is in the seventh house of Pisces, it feels like it's centered on an area that almost feels more spiritual and more centered around consciousness. And it's also at such like an early degree. It's literally at 0 degrees. So it's like a baby. It's like it has learned nothing. And then that Venus is at 28 degrees, which some people could say is a very critical degree. It's a very mature degree, but it happens to be in retrograde. And it is also seen at a degree that can make her centered around certain conversation pieces or famous. Definitely people are talking about her relationships, and we see that her relationships don't seem to be progressing, and it could be because this Venus is in retrograde where the collective can all see the flaws, the complications, the area of where there's definitely some safety issues. When I look at her Chiron, I don't have it in this picture, but her Chiron is down at the bottom of the fifth house, right between the energy of her moon in Capricorn and also her Mars in Capricorn, and it's at only 17 degrees. This lets me know that her energy of emotions and her energy of impulsiveness really takes a hold of her. And the fifth house represents that energy of home. Home is so important, especially when you don't feel safe in your home. And I feel like she hasn't felt safe in her home from a very early age. And I would say we see that with the Chiron being at 17 degrees and also with the Mars at 13 degrees, where the Mars is very impulsive. And what's interesting is this is in Capricorn, where with Capricorn, we see that energy of career, and we also see that energy of like root base. And basically she was made famous from her trauma and her instability in her home life, which definitely had many emotional ties to it. My biggest concern with Bhad Bhabie is that I hope that she seeks help. I hope she finds help, and I hope she gets better. I will be honest, she needs to do better. Her man needs to do better. Everybody needs to do better in that situation. The problem with somebody like Bhad Bhabie, Daniela, is when you are in these types of relationships, when you are under so much trauma, and you've experienced so much trauma and you haven't learned how to work through the trauma, how to work through your with positive coping skills, and how to seek refuge and how to seek help, you or the partner, she could leave him and end up with somebody like him or worse. And if she hasn't repaired her thinking process, her impulsiveness, and dealt with the energy from the past, these are all going to be repetitive patterns that continue to come up. And I just hope that her lesson here to teach us whatever it is that she's supposed to teach us here in this pathway does not get centered on something that could be harmful with her.